she'll get back on here pretty soon. Okay, this is the Friends Book Group meeting of May 19th, 2021. Our book this month is The Love Story of Missy Carmichael, and it's to be presented by Marcia Ellingbo. Oh, thank you. There's our book. Okay, Marcia.
We all set? Okay. Is there anyone besides Daylene that didn't have a chance to finish the entire book? Okay.
Everybody. I'm 3/4 finished.
Well, you have a good reason. And we're not chastising anybody for not finishing a book, of course. I'll tell you a little. Well, first of all, let me say that in 2019, I visited my sister in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and she drove me around the many lakes that are near where she lives. She lives in an apartment by herself. Her husband is deceased. And I noticed so many people out walking their dogs in the big homes around the lakes. And later on that in 2019, I was in Barnes and Nobles, and one of the people who worked there had done a recommendation for this book, The Love Story of Missy Carmichael. And it just kind of resonated with me because I had been to my sister's. And so I'll tell you a little bit about Beth Mori. There are two Beth Moris, and the one we're interested in is Morrey, but there isn't a whole lot about her on the internet that I found. I did find an interesting YouTube on her, but this is what I found. Beth Mori is a general fiction writer known for her debut novel, The Love Story of Missy Carmichael. It is also called Saving Missy. She has two covers, and I think the books are the same as far as I can tell. The London-based author got inspired to write this book when she was on a leave of absence. Mori previously worked as the creative director of RDF Television and also had a few articles published in different journals. Beth Mori now writes full-time and is keen to craft several bestsellers in the next few years, as she also takes care of her husband and two sons. And I was wondering if anybody is familiar with RDF Television. I assume it's from London. Anyway, so first time I read it, I buzzed through the book and loved the main theme of friendship, something I think we all seek, especially as we age. It resonated with me, the setting and the fact, as I said, that my sister lives alone. Now, after reading the second time, something I rarely relish, I found so much more. And so now let's see what you found. And here are some questions. But before we get into those questions, I would like to tell you something about the YouTube that I listened to. When she was growing up, her favorite book was Flowers for Algernon. And I know that's high school reading, and I have never read it. And I would like to read it sometime. Would you consider it a classic?
It is a classic, I believe, among young people, high school age people.
Okay, so anyway, the whole idea of the Flowers for Algernon, the way it was written inspired her to write this book. And other books that she really enjoys and she finds help with her writing are called the Rutshire Chronicles. Anybody read those? And her favorite one is called Rivals, and the author is Jilly Cooper. Well, I looked that up and they seem like a totally different type of book, but it might be kind of nice to look at. Anyway, so back to the questions. And anybody just can.
Marcia, I have a question. Was
Sure.
what you saw on YouTube, was it an interview with her?
Yes,
Or who was doing the interview?
actually, she was just talking, so I guess there wasn't an interview. Did you see one with an interview?
No, I was just
Yeah.
wondering if she was on some program or something that interviewed her.
Yeah, no, there wasn't a person interviewing her, so. Okay, so anybody who would like to answer, please do so. What did you think of Missy Carmichael when you first met her, and why?
Well, she was pretty dark and depressive, and she was becoming a hermit, really. And it seemed like her life to her was very unexciting and kind of dark, and she felt alone.
Hmm? Did you find it hard to like her?
No,
Okay,
you know, after reading Elizabeth Strout and how she does her characters, this was kind of along that order, you know. You kind of knew that things might get better for her.
okay. So by the end of the book, did you feel differently about her?
Yes.
Well, she did change, that's for sure. Okay. All right. What turn of events causes Missy to like Angela and Sylvie?
Oh, the dog. They kind of forced themselves upon her with knowing that their other friend Fix needed a home for the dog.
Mhm.
Was that the beginning of it?
Yeah, pretty much so. Uh-huh. Would anyone else like to comment on that?
Oh, and the son, the little boy, I can't think of his name right now.
Otis.
Yeah, and his mother needed a sitter, a babysitter for him. And so she sort of befriended Missy, and that started that relationship.
Yes, thank you. Missy learns to take risks. Tell us about some of those risks she learns to take.
Talking to other dog walkers,
Yeah, one of them is.
Yeah.
being friendly to strangers.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and it was just baby steps, but she started to do things kind of on her own, like stop at the coffee shop, even though she really didn't want to. She kind of really forced herself to do that, which was a good, healthy thing for her to do.
And she took the job at the library.
Right.
I like that because she liked the library and she said that
Yeah.
everybody loves the library.
Hobby made her come out of her shell.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think she was just trying. Yeah, I think she was just trying to get back to herself that she thought she lost by getting married and then having children and, you know, focusing on that. And she kept referring back to what she had initially started out to do and be in life. And I think she was just trying to find her way back to that person. And all the things that she did was giving her an opportunity, or I'm going to call an excuse to get back there. You know, kinds of things she did.
Yeah.
I think that made her realize that how we can turn things around if we take some steps and we quit moaning and do something positive. So I really like her outlook.
Yeah.
And, you know, the whole book is just full of laughter and deep insights on different matters. So I enjoy it.
Yeah.
Really constantly, because I had a lot of different things happening on my house and with my family, but I really enjoyed the book and her position and all the things that she does and teaches us how to overcome our grief or our deep thoughts and do something positive and get out of the hole. So
I like the book as well. I like the way she described Missy. I think Missy was very much like her mother, even though she said she wasn't.
yeah,
I think in a lot of ways she was really like her mom. And I just, I just like the fact that she didn't give up. She just kept moving, which is a good thing.
Mhm.
Did any of you get a tear in your eye at any
Oh,
moment?
God, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me, Anne.
I about fell apart when she pulled the dog's toy out from under the covers.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
I almost lost it.
I did lose it. So with my dog sitting on my lap, that did not help matters at all.
Oh,
Oh.
I read a review on the book, and they didn't even mention Bobby in this one review. And none of this could have happened without Bobby. It was kind of interesting. Anyway, well, have any of you ever stepped out of your comfort zone and actually forced yourself to step out of your comfort zone?
yeah.
Yeah.
I have when I became a docent at Bowers. I had to talk and lead groups of people that were all strangers and having to memorize facts and figures and stuff. That was way beyond my comfort zone.
Mhm. Mhm.
Well, I used to work for 3 junior highs as a substitute teacher. And one year I had a very bad, I hurt my back. And so I had to take these muscle relaxants, some other medication for that. And it really set me into a tiz. I mean, some days I went to the doctor twice, I just could not get over, I couldn't eat, I couldn't get out of the bathroom. I mean, it was just awful. And so I decided, well, I'm going to work. And lo and behold, I got a long-term substitute job. A teacher had an opportunity to go to the World Health Organization with her husband for a huge conference. And she had all the GATE children, as it was called in those days, the advanced placement students. And I had never substituted for her before it. And I wasn't feeling well at all. But I said, I have to do this. I have to get over feeling yucky. And that was the biggest out of my comfort zone I've ever been in. And some days the kids would leave before the next class came and I just would cry. That was weird. But sometimes things happen like that and you have to get up and say, I go to meet my good. And sometimes it's not so good. That was a big thing for me. I'm sure we've all done things similar to that aren't really comfortable to do. Okay, here we go again. Bobby as a female dog, funny name, but I have a friend whose name is Bobby, but I'm sure it was, people thought she was a female, a boy dog. Anyway, Bobby teaches Missy to change. Is Bobby more than a distraction?
Oh, yeah.
Distraction.
Yeah, she was a companion. She was a sounding box.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Mhm.
Yeah, Missy talked to her all the time, got things out. She was a true companion.
Mhm.
And Missy felt safe with her around too. Safe.
Mhm.
Had the break-in before Bobby, and then after Bobby, she seemed to calm her down a bit.
For a while, I thought that break-in might have been Angela.
Oh.
don't know if she had a key at that time, but I was just kept thinking, we're going to find out what that break-in was all about, but it didn't happen. Excuse me.
The other thing with Bobby made an acceptable excuse for her to get out of her shell. So it's sort of what you were talking about, something that pulled her out of her comfort zone. Well, Bobby had to have a walk, and Bobby liked to be around people, and Bobby liked the park. And so there she was, plunged into things that she would have avoided in times past. But Bobby was a perfect excuse for her to get out of herself like that.
Yeah, I think
And Bobby was a safe zone for her. She could genuinely say what she wanted to say and be who she wanted to be, and not feel like she was being critiqued or evaluated or whatever you want to call it, as she felt she had been her whole life. So I think, you know, I don't want to call her a therapist, but she was a companion. She was somebody that she could go to that wasn't going to lay judgment on her in any way, shape, or form. And I think that's what she needed after all those years, was that ability to do that.
I think too, Bobby was a good outlet for any maternal instinct she had. I know she really, really missed her grandson and her son, not so much her daughter, but her grandson and her son, who are very far away. And I think that Bobby helped fill that void too, someone to feed and nurture and take care of, somebody dependent on you.
And when you're depressed, if you have a duty to do, it gets you going. So that's kind of the same idea.
Yeah. She said that even when it was raining, she knew she had to walk Bobby, and she had to, you know, make sure that things were taken care of. And so she had to get up and do it.
Why doesn't Missy tell Leo about the ending of the life of a fetus?
Well, I don't know about you folks, but it was a shock to me that Leo was still living.
Yes.
I thought he was.
Definitely.
When they took flowers and talked to him, I really thought they went to his gravesite.
Yeah.
Yep.
I did
That's-
too.
Yeah, a real shock.
Mhm.
I know. I didn't want to do a spoiler alert for Daleen, but I was the same way. I said, what? I had to go back a few chapters and try and figure out, where did they take these flowers? I got really confused, you know, after a while there. But I thought it was so great that turn of events was so, you know, all of a sudden was there, and it kind of explained a whole lot of stuff after a while.
So when I was reading it the second time, I thought, now I'm going to find those clues, you know. I never found them.
No.
Well, they never really explained who that man was.
Was Leo just not right after the war and he was in a home or something? Is that
No, dementia.
dementia? Oh, but he lives somewhere else, not there.
You will find out yet, Daily.
Well, it's okay. Tell me. I'm going to read the rest of the book. I'm almost finished.
Oh, okay. So, you know, years ago, she didn't tell Leo about the abortion, but do you know why she didn't? I mean, what is your ideas on that?
Well, she only saw, she said that he had graduated and he just kind of went on with his life, and she didn't see him again. So I don't think she ever expected to see him again.
Correct.
It wasn't like they had a long-term relationship, you know, it was just a one-night thing.
Right. But she hadn't a clue that he would ever come back or that it would materialize. So,
Right.
did you think her mother was helpful in handling the situation?
I think so, yeah. It seemed like her mother helped her.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't remember exactly what she said to her, but she didn't condemn her.
Yeah.
But she also didn't give her any other options either. It didn't seem to me like she had any other options.
Mhm.
Well, she had her go to 2 psychiatrists, and I thought that was really good.
I
Maybe-
thought that was the requirement there.
Yeah,
It felt to me like that was the requirement in
Yes.
order to get an abortion.
right.
Yes.
Well, could have been. So, okay. How does Missy see Leo? And you can pick any time in their life.
Mm.
Wow.
Oh, she fell in love with him immediately at that party when she saw him across the room.
Mhm.
So he must have been quite handsome,
Yeah,
an eye catcher maybe.
the golden boy. I
Yeah.
think that's what they referred to him as, or something similar. How do other people see him?
He
Hmm.
See,
was sometimes quite distant, I think. He really had a career that was taking off, and his career, I think, and his children, particularly his daughter, were things that brought him such great joy. I think he was just physically absent a lot. I think he was a little bit, well, okay, maybe a lot self-centered, because he did do things for his career at the expense of his family. I mean, including he even was open and available to having an affair with a student. So, I mean, my feelings toward him changed a lot over the course of the book. But I think he was kind of selfish myself. I think he was a good father, and sometimes he was a good husband. But I think he came first to himself.
I think Missy had a starry-eyed view of him versus a realistic view until, in their marriage, she started to notice that and just kept on going because she did love him a lot. And so she equated some of the things he did to him loving her without him ever saying anything. And I think that she just continued that same thought process until she got out in the real world and realized what true love was and how that is expressed differently. And I think the story kind of, to me, it developed that understanding on her part, even though she still loved him, but she understood it a little bit better, I think.
I kept thinking about a movie I saw a few years ago with Glenn Close, and she's married to a college professor. It was called The Wife.
Mhm.
I don't know if anybody saw it or not, but she was nominated for an Emmy or Oscar, and very similar type story in a way. I mean, a lot of it wasn't similar, but I think the relationship that she had with her husband was kind of like what Missy had with her husband, except for the fact that in the movie, the wife was the one who was actually doing all the work of the writing that the husband was getting all the credit for and ended up winning the Nobel Prize for, or wasn't it the Nobel Prize? I know it was one of those big ones.
I don't remember.
Yeah, Nobel Prize, Pulitzer, something. Anyway, he had to go to Sweden to get his prize. But, finally, Glenn Close stood up for herself. But the character of Leo reminded me of her husband's character, Glenn Close's husband's character in that movie. Always he was having, like, I would suspect that Leo probably had more than one affair. I mean, she didn't write about it, but he may have.
Well,
That's
he was
true.
he was gone a lot,
Yes.
and he had a lot of admirers, and he had a lot of opportunity, so it
Yeah.
probably happened.
Right.
Yeah, he was kind of on this pedestal and with lots of admirers.
Mhm.
And she didn't really see him as that way to me. She just loved him. And how does Missy's new friends help her reframe her relation with, I'll start again. How does Missy's new friends help her reframe her relationship with Mel, her daughter?
Oh,
Was it that they encouraged her to go to her daughter's wedding? And they all went and saw her in a different light or something? I don't know how they encouraged her to change her attitude towards them, her daughter.
I don't know if she changed her attitude so much as she changed how she looked at her daughter, and perceived what her daughter was like, because she always felt like it was Leo and the daughter, and her and Alice. No, is it Alistair? Yeah, or Arthur.
Alistair.
Alistair. And then she started to look at the fact that she really didn't look at her as her daughter a lot, as if she was looking at Angela and Sylvie and all those other people in a different light. And I think that's what was to me, it was a self-revelation. It was more than just these others helping her, but I think the others giving her that affection and time and love, she realized that maybe she wasn't doing the same for Mel for reasons of jealousy versus maybe other, I don't know. Maybe I'm reading a whole lot into it. I got into this book and probably got too far into it.
Well, I also thought they included Mel in the birthday party. And so they kind of brought them together, in proximity. I mean, it wasn't always just a distant type of thing, or they didn't really know much about Mel or the situation. So just the fact that they brought her into the picture when there was an event or something. And I thought that was very helpful. But they were good friends. That's what friends do, I guess. There are a number of Greek references, primarily oikos, which is mentioned on page 47. What does it mean to Missy?
I look into that. So the English prefix eco for ecology or economics also refers to different concepts: family, house or dwelling, and rock upon which the family was built. So Missy is thinking that maybe she did appreciate heroicos.
Yes. The home was very important to her.
House, the dwelling, or the rock of your life or your family.
Mhm.
So then that comes from the ancient Greece word of oikos, which is, we use in English and in all other languages for ecology or economics.
Uh-huh.
The same in Spanish, economía, so we use the echo too. So I thought that was interesting. I never, come upon that again before. And of course, I like languages, so that appealed to me.
Uh-huh. Well, and Missy had a very fine classical education.
Right.
So she had studied Latin and Greek. And
She always referred to it as that sense of belonging, that sense of completion, that whole concept of people or things coming together in a, I don't know, and I guess family is the word she used, of just everything being where it should be. At least that was the sense I got from it.
yeah, really good. What are the ramifications of her loneliness? How can we look at her total loneliness? How did that come forth in her lifestyle?
You mean the fact that she was almost kind of going into herself? She was going into herself, knowing at the end what we didn't know in the beginning. I can see where she just felt like everything had just disappeared out of her life and she just didn't know what to do. And then knowing then that he was around but wasn't really around was, I just thought she got lost for a while there. Didn't really know what to do.
And the son
of it was the way her house was decorated.
Mhm.
She had everything up in the attic that meant anything to her. And she had a kind of probably a drab house. I don't know. I pictured it kind of dark and undecorated, until, was it Sylvia that came along?
Sylvie,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sylvie, yeah.
Can you
Sylvia.
imagine someone coming in and saying, I'm going to do this for you? I mean,
Yeah, anybody wants to do that in my house, Beat, go for it.
Except I don't have an attic full of cool stuff, but
I just have a house full of stuff, so just do it.
She also had a bit of a drinking problem.
yes, she
Yeah.
did.
Yeah,
They all did.
they all did, but
They all did.
yeah,
I think Missy's loneliness too was kind of keeping her pigeonholed into this mindset that she'd had for a long time. Regarding her opinion toward Birdie, regarding her opinion toward her daughter. And I think it was only through coming out of her shell and meeting these wonderful people who helped her that she was able to kind of come out of that a very kind of, I think, self-destructive way of looking at things. So that loneliness was just, I think she was just getting further entrenched in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought the wedding of her daughter, Melanie, to Octavia, that was kind of comical. And everybody was drinking, and she took the dog to the wedding.
And that was fine with them. That was fine with them. I thought that was very welcoming of Mel to open up for Bobby to be there.
Yeah. I thought Mel's not too bad, really.
Really?
And sometimes the dog just wasn't under the table. He was out and about.
Yeah,
Oh,
doing her thing.
Yeah.
Did it bother anybody that she kept referring to the last conversation and you didn't have a clue what that conversation was? It was kind of,
yes.
I wanted her to get back to that. What was that conversation?
Right.
with Mel.
Oh, with Mel.
Yeah.
Yes. It took a long time before that came out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did.
And it seemed anticlimactic to me. I don't know if everybody felt that way, but when we did find out about it, it just seemed a little anticlimactic at that point because, okay, fine. That happened.
I agree. Yeah.
And was it the aunt that clued Mel in about what a difficult child she was? Wasn't it Sybil or some aunt told her the whole story? And
Yeah,
And also told Mel about the abortion.
abortion.
yeah, that was a bad aunt. She just couldn't keep it any longer. Oh, goodness. Okay. Do you agree age is a number?
Mm.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
would say also age is a state of mind.
Yes.
Yes.
It
Age is a state of mind. There are certainly people who are 40 or 50 who feel older than we do, I think.
Yeah.
It depends, I think, whether you're opening your horizons and seeing new things and enjoying people.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think it is it's a state of mind, and it's who you associate with. It's how you think. It's what brings a smile to your face, if you smile at all. And I don't think it has to do with a number of how old you are. I think it's just a state of mind. I agree.
Yeah.
I remember when I was younger, the thought of turning 30, for some reason, that was the one that was just horribly frightening to me. Well, I was not married and all my friends were, and there was nothing on the horizon. So that may have been part of it. But 30 was just going to be just awful. And that was a couple years before. And all of a sudden here, it turned out I had just turned 30 and I was having the time of my life, and life was good. And I was surprised, but I forgot about feeling bad about it.
30 was hard for me too. I discovered I wasn't going to be Mrs. America or whatever, as if I was ever going to be, huh? There were many references to Leo, but not until Missy reveals his existence did I know he was alive in a care home. And I think we all were surprised with that one. Okay, last question is, do you think the community Missy comes to know exists? I mean, are there communities where people just make everything right for her? Have you ever known people like that? Or I just thought it was amazing. They solved all the problems.
Right, right.
I've lived 30 years in England, 20 in London, and 10 in a English village, not unlike Missy's village, and have watched people become widowed, divorced, and how rapture the villagers are of people that have hit upon hard times, especially people that do not show up, for example, at the pub. Not that it's a drinking situation, it's a community situation. And if people don't show up for possibly a week or two, even to come in for a meal, somebody's at their home, somebody's checking on them. You're never left alone in a village. You can become isolated if you choose to be, but you will always have somebody checking on you. And I admire the lifestyle of English people and how they care for each other, whether or not they're friends. If they're neighbors, that's all that matters. They don't have to be close ties. They just have to be a part of the community. They're not left behind. And I saw a lot of that in this particular story. So yes, I saw Missy firsthand. I saw her house firsthand. I saw her clutter firsthand. I saw the windows never opened and darkness and yeah, she's not an atypical person. She's very typical of an older woman in England, in the countryside, withdrawn, dowdy, doesn't see life as holding something special for her anymore. That's part of the English makeup, kind of, for women. So.
I think that happens a lot in communities. If you've lived there long enough, it could be in an urban setting on a particular part of the city, or even like in my neighborhood, but we all walk our dogs all the time. So we kind of, know each other. And if we haven't seen one in a while, there's always a crowd. Have you seen so-and-so, or things okay? Or if you walk down the street and someone has had something happen in their lives, you say, oh, how is so-and-so doing? Are they, okay? Have you been there? I think that happens in a community after a while. I know what you're saying, Leslie. I think that there are countries where that is more typical than it is here. But having lived in my neighborhood for 20 years, I know most of the people on my street, of course, but then within the area, just by association. And I think that we do that a lot.
Is there anything anyone else would like to say about the book?
No, I'm just glad we read it. I really liked it.
I did too.
I did too.
Oh, I'm so
Me
glad.
too.
Yeah.
Me too.
What I want to ask a couple questions here. Has anybody read the book Grit, Grit?
No.
No.
Has anybody read the book by Kristen Hanna, Four Winds?
I'm reading it now. No.
How
That's
is
a
it?
book,
How-
isn't it?
Pardon me?
Isn't that her newest book?
Yes.
Yeah.
How is it, Leslie?
I'm new into it.
Oh.
I think it's going to be interesting. I've not read her before. I don't know quite where it's going. It starts off with it's about a young girl. It doesn't everything start with a young girl now. So maybe, yeah, her journey. I don't know, but I'll report back to you. It should be all right. You know, for me, when I choose a book, I look at the poor reviews equally as the good reviews, the 2 stars as equally as the 5 stars. Because they are equal. And I try to pick reviewers who are basically professional reviewers on Amazon. They're noted because they've been selected by Amazon. They make a good, they do good jobs. And that's how I tend to choose my books. What concerns me more is that most of the readers out there are vastly younger than we are. They're probably in their 30s to 40s, most of them, unless we're talking romance books. And I'm excluding males, of course. But most of them are very much younger. And so what intrigues them and gives them, sends them out there to do reviews would not necessarily be something that would entice me. And I can't tell you that this book is going to be any different than a young girl comes of age book. You know, they're just constant. But I'll certainly report back to you midway through and say, yep, it's a go. Because I think if somebody can say it intrigues me at my age, then I'll let you know.
Yeah, I've just been hearing so much about it, and I just wondered if it was any good. I haven't purchased it or read it or anything. And then the other thing I wanted to say is, you know, Pat Reardon really wants to get together with us and talk about old times. And we were just wondering how we could go about that. The library is a situation kind of unknown. What will happen there, but how would you feel about going to a park and just everybody bring a chair and just
Sure.
have
Nice.
a get
That's a
together?
nice idea. That's a
So
really good idea.
Yeah.
if you think of any other ideas, you know, that we could do in July maybe, or June, or even.
Does she have her 100th birthday coming up, or am I a year out?
94, 96, 94, one of those.
99.
Okay.
She's 98, I think, isn't she?
I think it's
I thought
99.
98. Okay.
98, 99, something like that.
99.
She'll be 99.
Well, I did mention to Daleen last month, not knowing whether we could go to the library. You're always welcome to come here. It might not be convenient for everybody, but the house is open. You're always welcome to come here.
Oh.
That'd be great
That's-
too.
That's generous.
Uh-huh.
That's very generous, yeah.
You had mentioned, Leslie, you had mentioned one time before that we could sit out in your yard or something. We were distanced, if we still have to be distanced or something. Didn't you? Leslie?
Well, I'm sorry. What?
Is that a question or what?
You had mentioned before that we could come to your house and sit out in the yard also.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, the weather, we get the sun right here in the afternoon. So that is an issue. It's never, the evening and morning is when it's in shadow, but midday it will be hot, but that given, I can open the doors and we can be inside. It's all easy either way.
Yeah.
And did you want to bring something up?
Yes. Thinking about October and November, we don't have books selected then. We selected out till September because that was how many books we had. And I had a couple of thoughts about those months. I would love to do a classic. It's been several years since we did a classic, and I can't remember what the last one was. But I would suggest for one, A Tale of Two Cities by Dickens. I've never read it, wanted to for years. It's supposed to be very good. I'm open to other ideas if somebody would like to suggest them. Also, there.
And the
Go ahead.
the bestseller list that runs in the paper every Sunday. People are reading 1984 by George Orwell.
Mhm.
I've never read it, but it seems to be circulating again.
I think you also mentioned Lord of the Flies as something people were reading, and I never read that when that was the thing to read. So that would be like a 20th century classic, if you
Yeah.
will. What are people's reactions to that idea for October, November?
I like classics, and Hickey and I were talking about Hemingway, and thinking that possibly that was something that we could bring up and read. The Sun Also Rises as well.
Yeah.
We used to do a classic every year. When we started the club, we always had a classic. Every year we had to read one classic at least. So I'm very much with the idea. And I don't mind taking November or October and bring a book. I start reading the Midway Library, and I think it's interesting.
Well, I'll give you a report on this Four Winds or Four Winds by Hannah. Probably in a week or probably by next week. If it's a real goer and I say thumbs up, it's super, consider that as well, because it's hugely popular.
I have a suggestion on the logistics of this. Why doesn't everybody think about what they might want to include in October, November? I don't think it would have to mean that you lead it. We could always get the questions or discussion points off of the internet and go with that. Or just make it sort of a free-for-all, whatever. But if everybody sends in their ideas to Daleen, or you can do it to me, I don't care, that would be all right. So let's say by the next week, by a week or two, just get the ideas, and then we can maybe take a poll with email and see what a quorum would like to do.
Are we going to send in a classic idea though?
No.
Should it be a classic or it should be anything?
Well, it can be either. Classic is one idea. So yeah, if you have a classic to recommend or something else, I think whatever you'd like to recommend for those 2 months.
Leslie, what was the name of the book that you suggested that you let us know about?
It's The Four Winds by Hannah. Marcia, what's her first name? Kristen Hannah. Yeah.
Is that a new one or is it a?
It's a new one. She's got a lot of books out there. She's very, very well read. But this is my first time with her, so I really don't know. It clicks on. It's set in the time of the Depression. In the central part of the states, and whether it stays there, I'm not sure, but that's where it begins.
Okay. Well, I'll write these down and send these out, and then you can add to them.
My husband was watching a program over the weekend, and it was saying that bookstores and jigsaw puzzles are really on the uprise.
Right.
And I'm so glad to hear that about bookstores.
Yeah, that's great.
That people are reading, they're reading more and more and more, that's good news for us folks that like books.
I have something to add to that. Last Saturday was the author's presentation that I told you about.
Oh,
Yes.
Me and Louise Penny. And it took a while, but I was eventually able to get tickets because you have to go through this other third party called Eventbrite. You have to get an account, a password, and all that stuff. So anyway, after many phone calls to the person that was in charge and emails, I was able to get a ticket and I was able to go. Anyway, the authors were wonderful. I think there were almost 200 people that
Wow.
attended the event. Yeah. Louise Penny spoke for about 45 minutes, and then Lisa C spoke, and they both talked about where they get the ideas for their books and how they plan things out. Louise Penny was funny. She has a good sense of humor. And she talked about her characters and the setting and how and I had no idea she's written about 17 books about these same characters in the same little village up in Quebec. And anyway, I've never read any of her books. So now I want to read some of her books. And then Lisa C explains how she does her research. I mean, she lives in LA. She goes over to UCLA. She said they have 4 research libraries there. And she may just see an article in the paper, like the Island of Sea Women. She saw something in the paper. She tore, or a magazine, while she was sitting in a doctor's office, tore the article out and then began doing the research. And she traveled over there and she spoke to this woman who had been a diver, 75-year-old woman who dove up until, you know, very recently. And it was just fascinating. But anyway, the gal that was in charge of this whole get together was telling us that Warwick's bookstore in La Jolla, I don't know if any of you know that one, but they have many they've had many author events over the years. I met Cheryl Strayed there, who wrote Wild, and I got her autograph and everything. But they were closing. They were on the brink of closing, and the community, now this is La Jolla, mind you, the community got together and raised the money to support them, and so they were able to stay open. So as of last week, they are able to reopen.
What was the name of that bookstore?
Warwick's. WARWICKS.
Okay.
And,
It's been there for years.
and they have some cute gifts there too.
Yes.
Does anybody want a copy of this book? I have finished it for next time.
I would.
That one.
Kathy, you can use mine if you want. Marcia, are you going to take Leslie's?
Yeah, I'd like to.
Oh, no, I have one. I've been reading it.
Oh, I thought you said you needed one.
No,
Does anybody
no.
else need one? They could.
Do you like her writing? I have
This-
tried 3 or 4 of her books and I cannot get into them.
This one?
Tanya French. For some reason, that Irish, that whole thing that she writes about, I just can't get into it.
Nope.
I'm loving it.
Oh, good,
Yes,
I liked it.
loving
So
it.
I really liked it.
Yeah. Yeah.
good. Well, I will give it another try.
Maybe Kathy, you like it because you toured Ireland and you got to know the people a little bit and understand a little bit more about what it's like. So,
Right. And I'm 80% Irish, so.
well, there you go.
So, yeah.
Leslie, I'll call you so I can come pick it up if I may.
Okay, we'll meet in the middle.
Okay. I was going to tell you about Louise Penny. I've read 3 of her books, and I just read her first one, and I thought it was better than the other 2 that I've read. I think she's a great mystery writer. But I went down the street to talk to this man the other day, and he came to the door and had to get his little blind dog back in the house so she wouldn't wander away. And he had his Kindle in his hand, and I said, "Oh, you got a good book there?" And he says, "Yeah, Louise Penny." He says, I used to live there in the community." He was from Quebec, and he says, I just love her books.
What is the title of her first book? Isn't that the one where you should start with her stuff?
Not necessarily. They pretty much stand on their own. Still Life. Like
Yeah,
the paint,
Still Life,
like
that's
a
the first
painting.
one. Yeah.
Yeah.
We read that.
Yeah. Did we?
I thought we,
Yeah,
for
we
this
did.
club?
Yeah.
I don't remember reading that one, but
yeah, a couple years ago.
I could have been absent. So
Yeah, we did a couple of years ago, I think, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Which one?
Still Life.
Still alive.
We didn't read that.
I thought we
Did we?
did.
What was it? The-
I don't remember it. I haven't been with you that long, but I don't remember it recently.
What was the name of it?
Well, maybe I read it and just assumed I read it for book club. I don't know.
Well, I'm sure Maggie has a list of all the books.
I do. I do have a list of all the books from the very first day.
Anyway, so
I just wanted to say that on your book, Marcia,
oh, yeah.
Chris Draham couldn't be here, and she sent me this. She says, "I am so sorry. I will miss tomorrow's meeting because I love this book. However, I have a doctor's appointment that can't be missed right at the time the meeting is scheduled. That said, I identified with this character so much, not because my marriage was at all like hers, but because I am an old lady and doing what she did took a lot of courage, and I want to emulate her. The ending was definitely a surprise to me, and I liked it all the way through. I hope the other members got as much from reading this book as I did. I will see you in June."
Oh, how great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good.
Well, thanks so much for keeping us going, Daylene.
Oh,
Yeah, thank
And
you.
thank you, Marcia, for a good discussion
And for the book choice, Marcia, it was great.
and a good book.
thank you, Marcia.
I'm really glad I read this.
I'm so glad. Okay, well, I guess it's off we go.
Off we go. Glad you're feeling better too.
Oh, thank you so much.
Okay, we'll see you in June then on Zoom.
All right.
Okay, bye.
Bye.